Good morning everyone and welcome to a new weekend vlog. It's actually just before lunchtime. I've been working a lot this morning, but I want to take a bit of a break and get some fresh air now because it's actually sunny today, so I want to take advantage of that. And I'm hoping to head to Newby Hall, which is a really beautiful historic home quite near to us, and I don't think I've shown it on the vlog ever before. They've got a really lovely garden. The house is stunning too, but unfortunately you can't take photos or film inside the house, so I won't be able to show you that. But I would really recommend going around and seeing the rooms that you can see. We actually visited it the very first time we came on holiday in Yorkshire, which I think was about 12 years ago, definitely over 10 years ago anyway. And we were on holiday with my grandmother and we all visited Newby Hall together, and I remember it as a really special day. The gardens were gorgeous, we really enjoyed going around the house, and I kind of fell in love with Yorkshire. And on that trip my grandmother bought me a really lovely illustration of Newby Hall by Ed Clues, who's one of my favourite artists, contemporary artists, and that picture hangs downstairs in our living room now. I'll do a little cutaway so you can see it, and I just think that's so funny. Who would have known? We definitely wouldn't have known at that point that we would end up moving from London to Yorkshire and being able to go to Newby Hall often. So I'm looking forward to visiting today, and I'll bring you along with me. Hopefully the gardens are looking nice. But before we leave, and I'm going to grab a quick lunch as well before we leave, but before all of that, I wanted to talk you through what I've read since we last spoke. I've read a couple of the new British Library crime classics. I only just got these and I was so eager to read them. And what I love about these books is they're such light, quick reads that it really doesn't take me long to get through these at all. So the one I read first was The Wheel Spins by Ethelina White. And it was famously made into a film, The Lady Vanishes by Alfred Hitchcock, which I watched again after reading this, and I'll talk more about that later. But I absolutely loved this. The book is so good. It's really different from the Hitchcock film, and I so recommend reading it. It's actually darker and more chilling than the film. There's quite a lot of humour in the film, and that doesn't come out really in the book. It was such a gripping read, a real page turner. It's about a young woman who is quite spoilt. She's always been very wealthy. She's surrounded by a crowd of friends, but they're not really people who are actually her friends. They really just like her for her wealth, and she is aware of this. She does have some self-awareness, and at the start of the novel, she's starting to feel a bit dissatisfied with her life. And she decides to stay on for a few days on her own, on holiday in this sort of remote part of Europe. And she sends all of her friends off. She starts to feel a bit lonely though, and she decides to go back to England earlier than she had originally planned. While she's waiting for the train to come into the station, she suffers an attack of sunstroke. But last minute she's able to get on the train and she thinks she's okay. She still feels woozy, and thankfully another English woman who is in her train compartment helps her. She helps her go and get tea and is just kind to her, though the young woman, whose name is Iris Carr, thinks she's just this old fuddy-duddy and is rather bored by her conversation, doesn't really pay attention, is still drowsy, ends up falling asleep. When she wakes up, the older lady who was taking care of her, Winifred Froy, is not in the compartment anymore. And gradually Iris becomes aware that Winifred Froy isn't returning and she's somehow missing. And when she starts asking questions, the other occupants of the compartment, who are not English and who don't all speak English very well, say that there has never been another English lady in the compartment. It has only ever been Iris, and Iris must be making all of this up. And this starts the beginning of the mystery. What is wrong? Is it the sunstroke that's affected Iris more than she thinks? Is she going mad? Is there a conspiracy that is somehow trying to silence her and that has silenced Miss Froy? And it's just so good. I believe this was first published in 1936 and the film was made in 1938. It came out really soon afterwards. And what I found so interesting about the book, like I said, it's more chilling than the film, and that there's much more of an emphasis on the danger of traveling alone as a single woman at that time. And Iris is to a certain extent protected by her wealth, but in the end, even she comes under the threat of being on her own and not really being able to fight her own corner. But she's actually a remarkable heroine in how determined she is and in her real refusal to be silenced. And I really enjoyed her character. At the start of the book, she's spoiled, she's not very likable, but she really goes through a real character arc, and I think becomes a lot more likable by the end. And so it's got so much of interest. I think the fact that it was written in the 1930s is also very relevant, where the threat of war was building, of course, and there's this feeling of national pride in being British, and this threat of the European and the foreigner. But what Ethelina White really shows is where this sort of patriotic ideal of England and being English really spills over into jingoism and the dangers of that, and these tensions between kind of international relations that all boil down to this single train and train compartment, and how Iris is very naive in her idea of British people in England, and how in fact so many of the British people who do to a certain extent help her or refuse to help her are all motivated by their own selfishness, essentially. So there's a lot going on in this book that I think is so interesting to talk about, and I just enjoyed it. I mean, on surface value, it's just a real page turner. The plot, the whole idea of it is excellent. You can see why Hitchcock made it into a film. And I watched The Lady Vanishes after reading this, and I did enjoy it, but I also watched a more recent adaptation of this book, which is also called The Lady Vanishes, but it was done by the BBC, I think in 2013, and that's much closer to the original story, and I actually really recommend watching it. I really enjoyed it, and they did a really good job in adapting the book, but I also really recommend reading the book. It's a great September read, actually, because it's set in the autumn, but it's still very warm, hot weather, so it's kind of more like early autumn, I think, so it'd be a good September read. Highly recommend it. And then this one I was very keen to read as well. I've spoken before about how much I like the mysteries by Christiana Brand that the British Library have republished. So I was dying to read this new one that they've brought out by her, and that's Suddenly at His Residence, and I loved it. Green for Danger is still my favourite of the three of hers that they've brought out recently, but this is my second favourite. So far I love Green for Danger the most, then Suddenly at His Residence, and then Death of Jezebel. So I was really pleased that I enjoyed this so much. It's a great summer mystery to read. It's set in the summertime in this English country house in Kent, and I did not guess the murderer again. She's so clever. I do normally guess, but with her I really struggle, and I love that I don't I don't know who it's going to be. I think she's really clever. So this was another very clever mystery, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't want to say too much about the plot because I'd be worried about accidentally giving out some spoilers. But if you want a fun, intricate, summary mystery, the Golden Age crime style, then definitely give this one a go as well. And then if you are signed up to my newsletter, you would have already heard that I read this book. I do recommend signing up to my newsletter if you want kind of more week by week updates of what I'm reading, not just when I've finished a book, but when I'm starting a book or I'm halfway through, because I tend to update in my newsletter a lot more about my kind of real-time reading each week. So I'll put a link to sign up for it if you're interested. Anyway, as I have been talking about on my newsletter, I read The Cloisters by Katie Hayes. I'd been saving this for a summertime read because it's set over a summer in New York City. And I'd been really looking forward to this one because I loved the premise. It's a contemporary novel and it's based around a young woman whose dream is to work in museums. And through a series of somewhat strange circumstances, she ends up getting a kind of internship for the summer at the Met Cloisters, which I've never been to and now I'm dying to go to. It's like a fascinating museum. I'll put a link again in the description box so you can check it out if you don't know it, because it really makes you want to go and visit, having read this book. So the premise was great. I loved that it was set over a summer, hot summer in New York City, in this really interesting museum, and with a young sort of female protagonist. But unfortunately, I found all of the characters really unlikable. A murder happens in the book, and so part of the story is also the mystery surrounding the head curator's death at the Met Cloisters. Tarot cards, ancient tarot cards, are also involved, which is interesting, although I think that could have been explored better in the novel. But my main issue with it was I just ended up not liking any of the characters at all, so I kind of found it hard to care by the end what really happened to them. The mystery, I don't think, is much of a mystery in this one either. You know who the villain is in this one. So that was a bit disappointing, but I did love how evocative it was of place. It was a great summer read. It really evoked hot summer in boiling New York City so well. I loved the setting of the Met Cloisters and it made me really want to go to that museum sometime. So those aspects I really liked, just the characters let down the story a bit for me. But I'm still glad I read it and it was a good one to read in the summer. So that's what I have to say about that one. My last reading vlog, I was reading Uncle Paul by Celia Fremlin. In my last video, I told you that I'd finished this and really enjoyed it. So I just wanted to say that again, that yeah, finished this, loved it, thought it was really good. And I've bought another Celia Fremlin book to read because I really admired her writing in this. Someone, I think in my comments, said that it was the most brilliant description of a damp place that they'd ever read. And it's so true. I mean, a lot of this is set in the summertime, but it's set in a British summertime. So it's all about being very wet by the seaside and spending some time in this cottage that is just permanently damp, basically. And yeah, I agree. She's such a great writer. So I want to read more by her. So I'm looking forward to reading more. And then what I have just started is Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kwong. This is the Reese's book club pick for July. And it really grabs you right from the first sentence, I have to say, this book. It's a great opening. I've only read the first few pages. I just started last night and I didn't read very much because I was tired. But it's just, it really pulls you in right from the beginning. And the main protagonist, I can tell, isn't a very likable character, but certainly she's got you really interested in her story right from the beginning. So yes, it's an exciting read. I seem to be reading a lot of kind of mysteries / thrillers a bit at the moment. This seems to be falling into a page turner for sure as well. But I like that kind of reading in the summertime. I'm always in the mood for that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading more of this today. Anyway, that's caught you up on what I've been reading. Let me know what you've been reading as well this past week. I'd love to know, or if any of these books appeal to you. I'm going to go down now and just have a quick lunch and then get some fresh air, go off to Newby Hall. I've just left Mum in the cafe so I can come and have a bit of a walk around myself. It's so peaceful and beautiful. It really is starting to feel like late summer, early autumn already. I can see the apples ripening and some of the dahlias are just starting to bloom, but it feels wonderful to be out in the sunshine and enjoying such a beautiful garden. So we're back home now. I don't know if you can hear it because the rain has just started to come down. It's coming down really hard. Definitely don't need to water today, which is nice. But we were lucky with the timing because it really is pelting down now. So I'm glad we had such a lovely afternoon though at Newby Hall. That was really lovely. And I got home to this parcel from Emma Bridgewater. So I thought I'd do a little unboxing with you. I picked up a few little bits in the sale that she just had recently. I think it was like their biggest sale ever. So I did pick up a few little pieces and they've finally got here. I think lots of people have been shopping in the sale, so it's been a bit slower than usual to get the parcel, but it's here now and I'm really pleased. So I got 2 mugs and I think there should be a tea towel in here as well. Let me see. Oh, success! There is one. Thank goodness for that. I pulled it out with the paper by mistake. Yes, so I got a tea towel. I always love her tea towels. You can see that. It's just really cheerful. I think that's really nice. And we use tea towels all the time because we do a lot of washing and drying up of dishes. And also I actually like to use them in photos sometimes, just as like a little tablecloth that I put on our small bistro table that we have outside, and that often works really well. So I do like to get pretty tea towels for lots of different reasons, and I'm really pleased to have snapped this one up. And then I got a couple of mugs. These were both seconds. I do quite often get her seconds because they're always marked down anyway, and then in the sale they were really marked down, which was very nice. So I picked these 2 up, and I mean, even though they're seconds, I can never tell what's wrong with them. So I always do check out her seconds. And I got this mug, which I wanted to get because it's a pied wagtail, and we see these quite often around the house, around the garden. So I was really thrilled to pick up one of these. Like I said, it's a second, but it looks pretty perfect to me. So I was really happy to get that. And then I got another mug that was in the sale, and also a second, so it was marked down a lot. But I'm sure it will still be lovely. Let me have a look. I know I don't really need more mugs, but I do adore Emma Bridgewater's mugs, and I just couldn't resist these ones in the sale. You'll see why, because this is her baking mug. You know how much I love to bake, so I thought this was just really fun. I really liked that one. And again, I think it looks brilliant. I mean, I can't tell a fault with that. So I'm really thrilled. And I'm really glad the tea towel was in there. Oh, so that's lovely. I'm so thrilled with those. Anyway, it's getting on well for evening now because we had to go grocery shopping after going to Newby, and I'll have to start making supper fairly soon. We're just going to have something light because we did have that cake at the Newby cafe, which was very nice, but that sort of has filled me up quite a lot. So I'm just going to make something simple and light for supper. I've got a bit of work to prep as well because I am doing some one-to-one coaching tomorrow, and I have to do some prep for that. And I also have another meeting over the weekend which I have to prep for, which I can't say what that's about at this stage, but just a lot going on, and I do have to do some work over the next few days, even though it is the weekend. So I'm going to wrap up this video. Just going to enjoy a nice quiet evening after I've done my prep. Going to have supper, and we've been saving the latest TV episode of Hijacked, which is on Apple TV. It stars Idris Elba and it's very good. It's very exciting. Probably not the best thing to watch if you're taking a flight anytime soon. I will say that. Maybe don't watch it if you are flying, but we're not, so we can definitely enjoy it. And if you like a bit of action-packed drama, then I think you would definitely enjoy this. So we've been saving this up to enjoy, so I'm looking forward to that. Then I might read a bit more and then off to bed because I need to have an alert brain tomorrow. So yes, I'm going to just wrap this up now, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and extra big thanks to those of you who pressed the super thanks button on my last video. As always, I really appreciate your support, but I so appreciate the support of everyone who watches and likes and comments on my videos. So thank you very much, and I hope you've had a wonderful weekend by the time this video goes up, and I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.